The morning started like any other quiet Saturday in Maple Ridge Estates. Birds chirped lazily in the tall oak trees lining the sidewalks. The sun had barely risen over the rows of identical beige houses, and the neighborhood still felt half asleep. Except for one person. Karen Whitmore. Karen was the unofficial queen of Maple Ridge Estates, or at least she liked to believe she was. As the head of the HOA, Homeowners Association, she took her job very seriously. Some people said too seriously. Karen had a reputation. She measured lawns with a ruler. She fined people for trash cans left out 10 minutes too long. She once filed a complaint because someone's Christmas lights were 2 shades too bright. Needless to say, people in the neighborhood avoided her whenever possible. That morning, Karen was walking her small white poodle, Princess, while scanning the street like a security camera. Then she saw it. Her face twisted immediately. "What in the world?" she muttered. Parked neatly in front of House 27 sat a dark blue pickup truck. But it wasn't the truck itself that caught her attention. It was the stickers. Large, bright orange stickers covered the back window and both sides of the truck. Karen stopped dead in the middle of the sidewalk. Her eyebrows shot upward. "What kind of ridiculous eyesore is this?" she snapped. Princess yipped quietly as Karen marched closer to the truck like a soldier heading into battle. She leaned down to read the stickers more closely. There were at least 6 of them. 1 on the windshield, 2 on the doors, 3 on the back window, each identical. Karen's lips tightened into a thin line. That is absolutely unacceptable. She looked around the street as if expecting applause for her discovery. No one was outside. Good. Karen loved catching violations before anyone else noticed. She pulled out her phone and began snapping pictures. "Oh, this homeowner is going to regret this," she said under her breath. According to HOA rules, vehicles in the neighborhood had to maintain a clean and uniform appearance. And these stickers, they were the exact opposite. And very noticeable. Karen marched straight toward the front door of House 27. The house belonged to a man named Daniel Carter. Daniel had moved into the neighborhood about 6 months earlier. He was quiet, polite, and mostly kept to himself. But Karen had already written him 3 warnings about improper vehicle presentation. She knocked hard on the door. Inside the house, Daniel sighed. He had a pretty good idea who it was. He opened the door. Karen stood there with her arms crossed like an angry school principal. "Mr. Carter," she said sharply. "Good morning, Karen," Daniel replied calmly. Karen pointed aggressively toward the driveway. "What is that?" Daniel glanced at the truck. "Oh," he said casually. "The stickers." "Yes, the stickers." Karen snapped. "They are absolutely disgusting." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Well, they're kind of supposed to be." Karen blinked. "Excuse me." Daniel leaned casually against the doorframe. "They're court-ordered." Karen let out a loud laugh. A very fake one. Haha, very funny. Daniel didn't laugh. Karen's smile slowly faded. "You're joking, right?" she asked. "Nope." Karen crossed her arms tighter. "I don't care who ordered them," she said firmly. "They violate HOA appearance guidelines." Daniel scratched his chin thoughtfully. "That might be a problem." "Yes," Karen said smugly. "For you." Daniel shook his head slowly. "No for you." Karen frowned. "What is that supposed to mean?" Daniel shrugged. "Just saying." Karen ignored the comment and pulled a small notebook from her purse. "Well, I'm issuing an immediate violation notice," she declared. She scribbled quickly. "Failure to comply within 24 hours will result in a $500 fine." Daniel whistled softly. "Wow, that's steep." Karen tore the paper out and handed it to him. "Remove the stickers immediately." Daniel looked at the notice. Then he looked at Karen. Then he smiled. "You might want to rethink that." Karen's patience snapped. "Mr. Carter, I am the head of this HOA, and She stopped suddenly. Her eyes drifted back toward the truck. Then back to Daniel. Then back to the truck again. The words on the sticker caught her attention again. Karen scoffed. "That's ridiculous." Without another word, she stormed down the driveway. Daniel didn't follow. He just stood on the porch, watching. Karen marched straight up to the truck. These ugly things are coming off right now, she muttered. She grabbed the corner of the sticker on the door and pulled. Rip. The sticker peeled away slowly, with a loud tearing sound. Karen smiled proudly. There, she said. She balled the sticker up and tossed it onto the driveway. Then she moved to the second one. Rip. Another one gone. Daniel leaned against the porch railing, completely silent. Karen didn't notice his expression. She kept going. Within 2 minutes, every sticker was lying in a crumpled pile on the driveway. Karen brushed her hands together triumphantly. Problem solved. Daniel walked slowly toward the truck. Well, he said calmly. Karen smiled smugly. You're welcome. Daniel looked at the truck, then at the pile of destroyed stickers, then at Karen. And then he said something that made her stomach drop. You probably shouldn't have done that. Karen rolled her eyes. Oh, please. Daniel pulled his phone from his pocket. Because, he continued, those stickers weren't a suggestion. Karen crossed her arms. What are you talking about? Daniel tapped something on his phone. They were part of a court ruling. Karen froze. What? Daniel turned the phone toward her. On the screen was a document. A very official-looking document. Stamped. Signed. And titled, Superior Court Order. Karen leaned closer. Her eyes scanned the page. And then she saw it. A line that made her face go pale. Karen slowly looked up. Daniel gave a small shrug. The judge was pretty clear about it. Karen's voice came out shaky. Why, oh, why would a judge order that? Daniel smiled slightly. Well, he gestured toward the destroyed stickers. You might want to sit down for this. Karen didn't move. Her brain was still processing one terrifying possibility. Wait, she whispered. You're telling me, Daniel nodded. You just destroyed evidence that a judge ordered to stay there. Karen's face drained of color. The quiet street suddenly felt much, much less peaceful. And somewhere inside Daniel's house, a security camera had recorded the entire thing. Karen stood frozen in the driveway. The crumpled orange stickers lay at her feet like pieces of evidence at a crime scene. Her heart was suddenly beating much faster. You're lying, she said weakly. Daniel shook his head slowly. I wish I was. Karen pointed toward the truck. No judge would ever order something that ugly on a vehicle. Daniel let out a small laugh. You'd be surprised what judges order when someone refuses to follow the law. Karen's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? Daniel walked over to the driver's door and leaned casually against the truck. About 8 months ago, he began, someone in this neighborhood reported my truck to the city. Karen lifted her chin proudly. Well, if it violated HOA rules, it wasn't an HOA complaint, Daniel interrupted. Karen paused. Oh. Daniel continued. The complaint said my truck was abandoned. Karen frowned. But you drive it. Exactly, Daniel said. Every day. Karen shifted uncomfortably. So, what happened? Daniel sighed. Well, the city put a warning notice on my truck saying it would be towed in 48 hours. Karen crossed her arms again. That sounds reasonable. Daniel nodded slowly. It would have been if it was actually abandoned. Karen stayed silent. So I called the city, Daniel continued. I told them the truck belonged to me, and I used it daily. And? Karen asked. They said someone had filed multiple reports claiming the vehicle was a nuisance and a neighborhood eyesore. Karen's eyes flickered for just a moment. Daniel noticed. He smiled slightly. I fought the ticket, he said. You went to court over stickers. Karen scoffed. No, Daniel said calmly. I went to court because someone kept filing false reports. Karen swallowed. And the judge didn't like that, Daniel added. Karen looked down at the destroyed stickers again. What does that have to do with those things? Daniel pulled up the court document again. The judge ruled that the city couldn't tow or ticket my truck anymore. Karen looked irritated. That still doesn't explain the stickers. Daniel pointed to the document. The judge also ordered the city to place visible legal notices on the vehicle. Karen blinked. Why? Daniel smiled. To stop people from tampering with it. Karen felt her stomach twist. The pieces were starting to come together, and she didn't like where the puzzle was heading. Daniel continued. See, the judge suspected that someone in the neighborhood might keep messing with the truck. Karen forced a laugh. Well, obviously someone should. It looks terrible. Daniel raised an eyebrow. That terrible truck is legally protected. Karen's face tightened. That's ridiculous. Not really, Daniel replied. The stickers were there to warn people not to interfere. Karen looked back down at the pile again. Her hands suddenly felt very sweaty. Daniel pointed toward the house. You know what else the judge suggested? Karen said nothing. Installing cameras. Karen's head snapped up. You're kidding. Daniel shook his head and pointed to the corner of his porch. A small black security camera sat under the roof, blinking, recording. Karen stared at it. You recorded me? She asked quietly. Daniel shrugged. It records everything in the driveway. Karen felt her throat go dry. That's illegal. Nope, Daniel replied calmly. Completely legal. Karen's confidence was beginning to crumble. Well, she said quickly, it doesn't matter anyway. Daniel tilted his head. Oh, Karen pointed at the truck. Those stickers were ugly and violated HOA rules. Daniel folded his arms. HOA rules don't override a court order. Karen opened her mouth, then closed it again. Daniel let the silence sit for a moment before speaking again. Also, he added casually, the judge specifically warned about this. Karen's stomach dropped again. Warned about what? Daniel scrolled through the document. Then he turned the phone toward her again. Karen leaned forward and read another line. Her face turned pale. Karen stepped backward. You're bluffing. Daniel picked one of the destroyed stickers up from the ground. They're city-issued notices. Karen suddenly realized something terrifying. If those were court-ordered, Daniel nodded slowly. Then you just destroyed government property. Karen's mouth opened slightly. But, I was enforcing HOA rules. Daniel gave a sympathetic smile. I'm not sure the judge will see it that way. Karen felt panic starting to creep into her chest. No judge would punish someone for keeping the neighborhood clean. Daniel shrugged. Maybe. Karen pointed at him angrily. You should have stopped me. Daniel looked genuinely surprised. You're the one who told me you were in charge. Karen's face turned red. You set me up. Daniel laughed. I literally told you they were court-ordered. Karen looked around nervously as if someone might suddenly appear. What happens now? She asked. Daniel took out his phone again. Well, he opened the camera app and showed her the video preview. There she was, on screen, ripping the stickers off the truck. One by one. Karen felt dizzy. You're not going to send that to anyone, she said quickly. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he bent down and picked up the rest of the destroyed stickers. I probably wouldn't have, he admitted. Karen relaxed slightly. Then Daniel finished his sentence. But the city asked me to report any tampering. Karen froze again. You already told them. Daniel nodded. Yesterday. Karen's eyes widened. Yesterday. Daniel smiled. They were expecting something like this. Karen's mind raced. Why would they expect? Then she stopped mid-sentence. A horrifying realization hit her. Daniel watched the realization spread across her face. Yes, he said quietly. They know someone in this neighborhood keeps filing complaints. Karen's voice became barely a whisper. They don't know who. Daniel gave a small shrug. Maybe. Karen suddenly felt very exposed standing in the driveway. She grabbed her purse nervously. Well, I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding. Daniel didn't respond. Karen forced a smile. I'll just head home. Daniel nodded politely. Have a nice day. Karen turned and walked quickly down the driveway. But just as she reached the sidewalk, a car turned the corner. A white city vehicle, with an official seal on the door. Karen's stomach dropped straight to the ground. Daniel glanced at the vehicle, then back at Karen. Well, he said calmly. That was faster than I expected. Karen whispered one word under her breath. Oh no. The city car slowly pulled up beside the driveway, and two people stepped out. One of them held a clipboard. The other held a camera, and both of them were looking directly at the truck.